and it might crash as we do it. But yeah, so today, the stuff we're saying right now. So we're just coming back in this because we're developing the Restart podcast right now. We just came up with the word recast. It was great. But you're saying that you believe that brand is pull versus push, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean
that's
regular advertising.
Yeah.
is push.
Yeah.
You know.
I would say this. I love what you just said, and I would say this. I think that the result of brand is pull versus push, right? So that's the result. But I would say that I mean, I agree with you 100%. And I always go back to my cow story. Remember, right? So the cows come home because the fact of the matter is, this is what I love. This is what I love telling this story because my favorite people to tell this to are brand strategists. Right? We're both kind of a little cruel that way, but because the idea is, look, you got a cow, right? You got lots of cows, and the cows look just like your neighbors, right? So you want to differentiate them, so you put a brand on them. You circle mine's Circle A, and yours happens to be Circle A. Okay, so fine. The Anderson.
I'm gonna mark mine with Anderson. You can use something else.
Okay, I'll use Anderson. I'll use my last name instead. So you have these cows, and then all of a sudden you can tell them apart. They wander over there. You know which ones are yours. All is good. And that's not brand. You branded them, right? This is kind of right. You branded them. They have your brand on them, but that's not branding. That you're not feeling any impact of the brand. The branding is when someone comes and steals your cow, right? And then you decide, oh, I'm going to go out, I'm going to hunt them down, I'm going to kill them. I'm going to take them out, right? And that's which is fantastic. I know I said this before. You're like, yeah, I already heard this, Josh. Right? But it's true. So you hunt them down and kill them. Well, the thing is, when you do that, you do that like at least twice, right? Word kind of gets around.
That's the branding.
That's brand. That's the branding. Exactly. Now you've established a brand. And the thing is about brand is, and this is what I tell everybody this for, especially when we work with any company, I first tell them out of the gate, the thing about brand is, and this is where you get confused with brand strategists, where they start looking at things, is you don't get to dictate what people feel about your brand. You have zero control over it because you're going to get two groups of people, for instance, in the killing of hanging the person that came and took your cow. Number one is, are people going to say, hell yes, that was the best thing in the world. Take them out. Those bastards, right? You're going to get that. And then that's number one. The second thing you're going to get are people are going to go, all they took was a stupid cow and you're going to kill them? That's ridiculous, right? So your brand is gone. It's gone in completely different directions. And actually, I like that because what you really want to get with your brand to make it the most effective is you want to get yeses and nos, not maybes. That's what I think. I don't know whatever your opinion is, but that's my whole thing on brand for strategists. I'll finish that up and I'll let you go. The thing about it is that you don't get to dictate your brand. Your actions that you take are what dictate your brand. So you better take it's good to take this is the inside out approach you were just talking about, right? You better take the inside out approach and decide to do the right type of actions because those will lead to the right type of things. Anyway, we'll go from there.
And I would say that you do get to dictate your brand by what you put out into the marketplace. You went out and killed the guy that stole your cow. That is you dictating your brand.
Well, it is, but it is, but you're not dictating what people feel about your brand. You're 100% right.
You can't control what people feel about you, but what you do will inspire that. So
absolutely.
So you need to be very cautious on what you put out in the marketplace, and what people are going to resonate with what you put out into the marketplace when it comes to your branding. So that's the one thing I love about social media branding. Is that you just put stuff out there and the people that resonate with it are automatically going to engage with you, automatically engage with your content. And then, social media allows you to actually see who's engaging with your content.
Oh, I love that. And when you say that, when you say content, break that down. What do you mean by content?
Well, videos, blog posts, podcasts, audio.
Like we're doing here, right? This is the kind of so the idea is what I was trying to pull out there a little bit is the not advertising necessarily.
Social media, there's social media branding, there's social media advertising, there's but then there's just straight up advertising.
Well, and I was thinking about that for a second. Wait a second. Is advertising, it is an action in the marketplace? Oh man, that's interesting, right? So it is an action in the marketplace, but it's not necessarily the kind of action that's going to drive attraction and brand, but it could be. Like I was just watching the other day the Dollar Shave Club ads, right?
Awesome.
Oh, that's an entertainment experience. So that action in the marketplace is incredible. But most people are trying to do brand. This is where I come in a little bit on this. Is most people are trying to do a brand or the actions in the marketplace, advertising, etc., in order to sell their products, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole point. Is they're trying to sell something. So they set their goals. How are we going to sell something? What do we got to sell? And they're thinking about it from that. How do I convince people to buy my stuff? Versus how do I make a difference in the marketplace and express a point of view, right? And maybe that's where you're going a little bit. That's
and this is where you are different than me. This is where your inside stuff is what makes the outside stuff work, So
right. This
is where I fail horribly and you totally kick ass. So
that's why it's peanut butter and chocolate, right? That's why it's Anderson and Anderson Incorporated, right?
That's right.
And that's why we both are exceptional pizza makers. Oh wait,
that's right. That's why I'm a better pizza maker than you.
Oh, you probably are. You probably are. Because I'm kind of stuck in a mode. I found some really cool stuff out. It's interesting because I found some really cool technical stuff out, and I make a good pizza. But I don't make a great pizza, and I know that. I'm humble enough to know that. Right?
See, this is the difference between us right here. I'm the marketing guy, so I'm like, I am the greatest. and you're like, on self introspection, I would make a decent pizza, but it's not exceptional.
It is true. It's so funny because our personalities, right? You're the thoughtful, laid back, let them talk, and then say two words that just destroys it, right? Which is beautiful. I love that, right? And I'm over the top, just which is too funny. It's interesting how we come about things at a different level, but it's fun. Oh, yeah. It's fun. It's what makes it so engaging, and coming up with all these kind of things and stuff like that. It makes it worthwhile. So yeah. Anyway, this branding is that's kind of the topic of this podcast. It's coming into, but I mean, the thing that I've recognized is that you can't. I don't think you can go analytical on brand. That's what I'm saying. So I think that's the point that to your inside out approach, right? If I hand you somebody with some really interesting introspection that figures out who they are and the difference they're trying to make, right? The way they express that to you, because I know you already, you're listening to what they're saying and how they're saying it is going to change how you're able to articulate that to the market. And that's going to make all the difference in the world.
Right.
And that's why everybody should hire you. And that's why you won't work with everybody, right? And You know why you don't work with everybody? Here's the biggest problem I have with you. You ready?
Let me have it.
Oh, this is a slam in the face, big time. You charge too damn little.
I do.
Because you're concerned about giving such a high quality of value that you're worth about 4 or 5 times as much, a minimum. Right. But you're always, because that's the way you are, because you're at the core of who you are. You're all about making things right. And everybody that seems like we've come in contact with has been screwed by somebody somewhere along the lines, along marketing or along consulting or along those types of things. Right. And there's this, I'm going to make it right. And you deliver exceptionally high value for an exceptionally low cost.
It's true. It's coming across people that have paid huge amounts of money to get almost nothing. It's like really, this is what you got? Man, oh God.
I love that. Well, and I'd like to be able to I'm going to just tell this out. Here's the only fault that there is of that. I know, because you're such a pure person and you're such a pure soul. There's no question about it. And so honest. I love that. But I keep getting back to the point that I've run into with the inside out approach to life, and that is and I tell my clients this is exactly how I want to help them set up, and what I want to go with them on is I need to be able to figure out from the market, not how much the market's willing to pay for my services, right? That's one thing. And then the second thing is, what's the right amount to charge them that's the fair amount? That's another argument. I'm trying to drive towards the model of how much do you need to charge your customers? This is largely influenced from the information product industry, by the way. How much do you need to charge your customers for them to get the full value and engagement out of what you're delivering for them?
Right. How much skin do they have to put into the game to make it actually
Meaningful,
worthwhile? Yeah.
Worthwhile. And I think that exactly, because otherwise they they don't value it as highly. Right. And some people are infinitely wealthy and they just don't care what it costs, and what doesn't make any difference. And I'm not talking about those kind of people. I'm talking about people that you're really making a real difference for them in their lives and doing something that's amazing. And they need to be fully engaged. And part of what I think my role is in an organization is to help bring out the best in who they are and get them to the point where they're fully engaged.
Yeah. And your stuff is really, I mean, just, I hate to say transformational, but it really is. I mean,
yeah.
it's solving,
yeah,
it's solving the little things in an entrepreneur's brain that are misfiring and making that thing hum, you know, and taking an inside out approach, you know, instead of saying, you know, what do I want for my business? I want it to make more money. You know, it's like, what other, you know, platitudes from 99% of the population are you going to repeat? You know, well, no, it's not about making more money. It's about delivering more value to the world and the marketplace, bringing your uniqueness to the world in much more of a quantity and effectiveness. And the money is going to be in there, right? And it's part of the whole equation. But it's so much better than just I want more money. You know?
Well, yeah, and the thing, yeah, I love that, and I just had a big thread with a customer involved in this kind of this exact topic. It was amazing, but yeah, it's really this point of the world's, and I try to couch this to make sure that I say it right, because I don't want to. The world is moving towards a place where people are seeking more meaning. I mean, one of the things about millennials get a lot that they do, and maybe rightly so, right? I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with some of it, but they've also got some interesting things, and one of them is that they were told they can make a difference, and so they're kind of trying to live that, and that's really hurting them in a lot of the old world corporate media, corporate marketplace, right? Which I'm not a big fan of the corporate marketplace anyway, but in the corporate, you know, living in the corporate world under that thing. But the idea is the world is already like them, moving towards a more meaningful existence. And
absolutely.
And when you're moving, and so they're already doing that. The question is what are the tools? What tools do they have to be able to facilitate that? And that's what I really like to bring in. That's what I've really found. And I think I say it this way. I think it was given to me in July of 2015. That's exactly what happened. I had a vision for it. It all came to me. It's hard for me to think that it was just me who came. It's just like everything aligned, and all of a sudden I went, oh, and it was, oh, okay. I didn't understand that to find a purpose in life, which, by the way, there's 250,000 books on Amazon.com about purpose. So it's a big thing. People are searching for that. That's why there's so much books on it. But they're all crap, right? They're all wrong. They're all wrong is what I say. That's my big bold statement. They're all wrong. The problem is there's an underlying thing before you can get to your purpose. You got to understand what you just said, your uniqueness. So I've read, which I love. You know, that's and the uniqueness is the piece that we don't get. And I had the vision for how you figure out your uniqueness, which is the thing that nobody gets. And if you do get it at some point in your life, usually you get it by accident, and you don't know how to figure it out when it changes, because it does change as you age and go through life, etc. Right? So what if we could, you know, be able to figure out our uniqueness, and then from there, that's how I built my Life 3 kind of program, which is interesting because I have to be really careful, because you got to there's this thing called Life 1, which we've talked about, which is vision, mission, strategy, planning, objectives, project, task, orientation, or some variation thereof. And then there's this thing called Life 3, which is very different. It's a system-based orientation of living life. And I have to be very careful, because they both exist at the same time in all of us all the time. It's a matter of you've got these two engines inside of you, right? And one of them, and they're all chemical. This is all biological. This is all backed by some. We know this now. We know how the body works. And you've got one that says, cortisol and dopamine come throwing. Dopamine says you're checklisting, you're getting everything checked off your list. Cortisol says, oh, you're not going to get it done in time. You got to better kick it out, right? People rely on that. And the corporate model drives that by pushing everything into Covey's old 4-quadrant urgent and important thing. If you remember that from the 90s, right?
Stephen Covey.
They do that. Oh, this is due on Friday, and the manager said, and they go, oh, okay, great. And they get up there and Friday comes along. They go, oh, well, it's not really due yet. It turns out I don't have to deliver for another 2 weeks. The meeting got moved or whatever, right? You kicked your butt to get, and then it never gets shown. It never even gets in the meeting. There was no reason. They're driving it for artificial results. Like they create that all the time. And that works in some instances, called the forcing function, to help you get off your butt and do something because the cortisol will get kicked in, right? But over time, when that's the only mode you have another thing inside you, which is happening to everybody these days. This is what I think antidepressants are being given out like candy, is that other thing inside you says something's wrong. I want to make a difference. Something's not going right here. And that is the thing that is driven by oxytocin and serotonin. And those are where you get your meaning and fulfillment, those chemicals being released. And so when you're over here, it depletes this. Right. And if you find your purpose in life, what's funny is you go, oh, here's my purpose. Okay, what are my goals? And then how do I get there? And you're right back over. So I love being, obviously, I love, and we'll talk about more of this in this podcast and go through it. But I want to get this out in a big way to as many people as humanly possible. My big problem, where I could really use a lot of help from anybody out there, is that I know how to deliver this and have done it successfully one-on-one. And there's nothing there. It's pure joy for me, right? But how do I bring this out to the market in a bigger way? I have a book recorded, not written. Big problem. We can talk all about this. Another good future podcast. Let's talk about how to write books. That's a great podcast. Don't you think?
Oh yeah. We're gonna do a webinar on that real soon, but we don't need to talk about that.
Okay, all right, we'll do a killer one. Exactly. That's just the side topic and whatnot. So no, I do love that. That does drive me, and getting that stuff out there in a big way. So I agree with you 150 million%.
True. Well, of course, because everyone does.
Yeah. Well,
so what was it in 2015? Was that a stroke or what?
Yeah, it was. It was like, you know what? So the way I talk about it is, it was something, and this is my, and I want to hear if you've had some of these too, right? Because this is important. This was one of my, it was such an overwhelming, it was immediate flash. Everything came to me for this entire program that took me 2.5 years to develop after I had the vision in 10 seconds. But I actually feel like this is something that's given to me from God. That's what I believe. I believe it came through me, it's not from me, it's through me, which also means I have a moral obligation to get it out there, which says, interesting. I go back to, what's his name? Pat O'Reilly. I think they did the software developer that said to do something so significant that even if you fail, the world is better off for you having tried. I love that statement. That's exactly where I'm at. I don't need to succeed in this, but I need to give it my all. Mm-hmm. Because somebody else will pick it up later on. I know it's the right direction. It's one of those things I know it's gonna proliferate at some point, but it might be early for it to proliferate in a major way across all. Obviously it's right for several people in the world right now, but in terms of it going really big, maybe it's not supposed to be me who takes it big. Maybe it's supposed to be somebody else who I encounter.
Maybe it takes a movement, a grassroots movement.
Absolutely, it does. No question about it, brother. So what about you? Have you had stuff like that happen to you?
Epiphanies.
Epiphanies, and this was a stronger than an epiphany or an aha kind of a thing.
Yeah, you were visited by God.
I was. Yeah. It feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that most of mine are epiphanies. They're not those big, huge, gigantic. I mean, my first big online marketing success was driving home from my day job, and had the radio off and just silence, and it's a 30-minute drive. And then all of a sudden just the thing like appeared in my brain, and I'm like, that's how you do it, and then I spent, many months creating the thing that popped into my head, and it was highly successful.
That's identical then. Absolutely. What do you call though? They're not, because we that you see what that's more than that's not a eureka or aha or an epiphany, or it's something more substantial than that, because those are great and they help you typically short term, and they may even become part of who you are, but they don't guide you somewhere for a long period of time to produce something huge for the market in such a substantial way, right?
Yeah. And
Maybe.
yeah, well, yeah. But yeah, it's just sometimes it's a simple thought, but it does take a long time to actually build.
Oh yeah.
Mine was a fairly simple thought the first time around, and it was systemizing things that I tended to repeat in business. And realizing that you can make a software that will systemize a complex process. You just gotta write out the entire long complex process and get a programmer to actually build it. And that's been the key to my success for the last 15 years.
That's really interesting to drill on that a little bit, because obviously coming from Microsoft as a background, I never thought of software that way. But I understood that it's solving things that are very hard to do manually, right? So the things that are already being done manually, but you're able to get it was more of an automation component. But to your point, it's more of a systemization component, depending on how you take it, and that's really powerful. That's why and that's what ends up happening, I think. But I think that more software needs to be thought of as systemization. And because it's thought of as product and features and benefits, right? As opposed to systemization. Mm-hmm. It is a system, and it creates a de facto system because it forces you into a certain level of behavior. People will buy a CRM and they'll force they'll force all of their activities into that, right? And they'll change their activities to be able to match that. But
to match the software, yeah.
To match the software,
which is not cool.
No, so that's why you need to do other things besides that. And of course, you could do them and automate them in certain ways, no question about it. And you can customize them. But man, that's expensive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. $300,000.
Yeah.
First time around.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah. For me, it was building websites, because that's what I've done since '97. Is build websites, and in '99 I started doing search engine optimization. And because I like free traffic, and then from there it was like I started consulting people on SEO, and I started building my own sites, and it was the same thing over and over and over again. It's like, well, you need to build a website this way, and it's not just each page, but the whole entire site structure of your website makes a big difference. And so you have to build the whole website with the end in mind.
Wow.
Have all the pages interacting in a certain way. And so then pretty soon it was just like on the way home from my day job, it was just like, wait a second, a software could actually do that all at once, could build the whole site all at once, and that's what I built for my first success. And that's what it's been.
Still doing that.
Yeah,
that's what you're at today with drag and drop, which is just absolutely stunning software. That I think the number one thing about drag and drop, it just kicks Wix. Which is what I used. It kicks Wix butt. The thing is fast. It's speedy as crap. You can come up to speed in 10 seconds. It's not difficult to learn. But fast. Oh, and I think it has SEO built in, which is. Oh my goodness, that is a challenge, especially these days, because the problem is that the algorithms are constantly changing, and then you have to hire these things called and I know these are expensive. You get these SEO consultants coming in, right? They're doing this work, and oh my goodness, they're driving stuff like they're driving content and strategies and things like that when they have no right to be doing content strategies, because they're just doing content strategies to drive traffic, right? But they're not actually doing things that actually are an instantiation. I'm gonna use that word a lot. An instantiation of who you are, what you're trying to be in the market. So they're not really fitting from that perspective, but they're getting you traffic. And I keep getting back to the whole point, right? The traffic doesn't matter. Quality traffic matters, but traffic, quantity doesn't matter, especially impactful. You want to get really highly engaged, interesting people interacting with you. And why you want to do that also, by the way, is the inside out approach, right? what people don't realize is how much they have inside them. And
Right.
they don't know it because it shows up. Tell me this is true for you, right? It shows up in places you never even expected. And you're like, oh, I forgot that was in there. I didn't know that was in it. It just shows up and all this wisdom pops out. We've all got that, right? And the question is, how do you begin to capture that and target that, do stuff like that?
And no search engine optimization based content strategy will ever understand that, and that's the part of your business and you that is the most important thing to get out in the world.
Yeah.
And it's not artificial. All those other traffic strategies are all artificial. And the fact is once you've got your inside out right, then if you've got your inside right, then the outside is super easy to do.
Makes it much exactly. It makes it doable, right? Otherwise, because you probably now talking about that, because here's the thing, right? We've got you and I a 1-2 punch, inside out, right? If people want to be successful, they hire an inside out approach, and the inside out approach will knock it out of the park. It will they will never have done something so influential and so quick. But the thing is, the first 3 months are difficult. Right? The first 3 months are difficult because you go down to the weeds and you're like, I don't know where this thing is going. So it's uncomfortable, right? When you start seeing results happen, they're shocking. It's like, oh crap, right? It's just it's that wave of, how you get the wave of the whoosh going. It's like, oh wow, right? It's overwhelming. It's really great. So the second phase is always a lot funner. But how do people need to begin to think about that? Because that inside out. So what I want to go with that is when you're working with people, and because you do this all the time, you don't have a chance to work on their inside often.
No, it's
right?
horrible.
So
you're at fault for this, by the way. You changed me and you made it impossible for me to work with a lot of people.
I'm sorry, or it's a good thing. One of the two, the blessing or.
Well, no, I've had to stop and rethink my business because it's like, no, I need to choose my customers.
Yeah.
I can't just put a shingle out, open the front door, give them a payment link, because they'll walk in and it'll be the wrong person. It'll be a life 1.0 type person. And then I'm trying to do things for them that they have no concept of,
Right.
So yeah, you've forced me to completely rethink my business.
So
first I rethought myself and my purpose in the world and my uniqueness and all that stuff. Yeah. And you did that first, and then I tried to go and do a life 1.0 implementation of that person, and that does not work.
It doesn't, does it? I know it's hard. It's hard. I've run into this several times. It's very interesting, right? Because unfortunately, it's the puppet strings, right? Once you see the strings, you can't unsee them, so it becomes very difficult. But so that makes it difficult. It makes the clients you take on more challenging because you can't just take anybody on. But does it make the engagements better? Are you getting more out of them? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's funny because it's like there's parts of my day are effortless, right? And I get amazing things done in amazingly short periods of time.
Yeah.
Right. And then there are parts of my day that in the past would have been just normal parts of my day that are like pulling out fingernails. Because they're not according to my uniqueness. They're not according to my purpose. And I'm just doing them to get them off the task list, Yeah. And it's funny. So it's like every day I'm constantly rethinking my business and saying, okay, I got to get rid of those things that are painful. And I got to get more of that stuff that's effortless.
Yeah.
So that's just a constant morphing of my day.
And I don't mean to drill on just that because I love that because that wasn't happening in the past.
No, right. It was I just had a list and I would go down the list and do the things.
And if you didn't do it, I'm a procrastinator. I must be a bad person.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I like. But what I say about Life 3, it's anybody can elevate themselves towards it. It's not that big of a deal, and they probably have at different times in their lives by accident. All I'm trying to do is make it by purpose. That's all. That's all I'm really about. I'm just trying to help you figure out how to understand what it is, so you can know yourself, and then be able to recognize these things on purpose, because I've given them names and those kind of things, right? With the actual group, with a group of workshops that get people where they want to go, kind of thing. So. Too fun. I like it.
But then once you've got that stuff going on, then it's super easy to go out and market yourself and brand yourself in the marketplace. Because if you're working on your purpose, if you're working on your uniqueness, then all you have to do is just put it out there.
You know what it's what I said earlier. You know what's interesting is it's kind of like there's several ways to close. I was just watching a gentleman on a webinar talk about closing. It was actually quite interesting. But there's several ways to close. And when you're coming to us, one of my favorite ways to close, right, to help everybody with your Life 3 or Part 3.0 is here's where I need help. Here's what I'm looking for. And it's fantastic because because it's not sales. That's what people say. Well, that's not sales. Usually, sales supposed to ask for the order. Damn it, right? That's one, right? But that's the whole thing. It's like here's where I need help, and people and the thing is, what's funny about that is, you know this because I'm the same way. I'm a slut for this, right? Anybody who needs help, it's like, oh, okay, if I can help them. I love that, and you're actually you're figuring out, well, where do I really need help? Well, I need help. I need clients that will help me further what I'm doing in this area, right? And it's like, oh well, I'm then it's the opt-in too, right? I'm one of those, right? Kind of a thing. Maybe I'm one. It's fantastic, and those are I don't know if you started using that or not, but those are.
Oh yeah, and it's pull marketing because all you have to do is put it out there, and you put your uniqueness out there, and you say, this is what I need to find out there in the world. This is where I need help. And it's funny because and if people say, oh yeah, well I'd like your uniqueness. I'd like some more of that. Do you have more of that? And you're like, oh yeah, let me help you. And you give them all the help you can. You get out there and make an impact in their lives. And they immediately are pulled into your sphere, and they immediately want more of what you have, and they're usually willing to pay whatever it costs to get it. So
or they don't.
No,
which is great. That's actually those are great. I love those. I like the they know they don't or they are. I love that binary way they get.
And they self-identify too. That's the thing. You don't have to sell yourself. Right. You don't have to sell your business.
Yeah.
Out there, you must buy my thing, buy my stuff. You say, this is me. This is how I can help you. And those people that are like, I don't need that. They just move on. Those that are like, I totally attached to that. Then they're pulled in completely. And they self-select. You don't have to go out there and grab people and shake them and say, buy my stuff. The people that need your stuff will just automatically be attracted to you.
Absolutely, which is you're right. That is exactly what pull marketing is trying to create and trying to go towards. And this is just a way to be able to make yourself attractive to the right kind of people, so the right kind of opportunities are coming to you. And it's a simpler way to go, but it is a simpler way to go. But my God, for me, the challenge, this is where you come and just hit it out of the park. That for me, and this because I'm still struggling, right? With the idea of, okay, well, how do I get this turned on digitally? Because so I can attract the right kind of people and have the right kind of interaction and conversations, so that I'm maximizing my ability to spend really high quality time talking with people one-on-one, to do the video conferencing, to get in person if we need to, those kind of things, because those are just they bring out as much in me as they do the clients. We're pulling stuff out. It's just amazing. That's why we get to such a high level. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
But that's the hard part, right? That's what you do brilliantly, is be able to reduce that down to something that you just kind of go, oh yeah, I can do that, dude. That that gets the nature of the beast. But it's like, dude, are you kidding me? No. I try to go out and do that. It's not. I cannot just go out and just do something like that. It's next to impossible. I find it next to impossible.
Yeah.
You're like, why, right?
I'm just like, why don't you just schedule a webinar and then show up? Because that's all it is to me. That's all
Yeah.
it is to me. It's
Yeah.
like back when I used to speak on stage for internet marketing.
Yeah.
Last time I spoke on stage was like 2012, so I
Yeah.
haven't done it in quite some time. But I used to
Oh, for internet
speak at
marketing. Yeah.
for internet marketing.
Yeah.
Last time I used to speak on stage, I used to speak like once a month. Tried to minimize the impact on my family, but travel and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it was weird because like I knew my stuff and I had, I'd have a slide presentation and all that, but I knew my stuff to the point where it had happened a couple of times. I'd be at a seminar. I wasn't on the speaker list or whatever. I would just go to a seminar once in a while to see one of my friends or to be support, for one of my friends. And a spot would open up and they'd go, this guy didn't show up, and we got his spot. Can you talk? And then I'd be like, yeah, sure.
I love
it's like
that. Oh, yeah.
when you've got your stuff in alignment, that's how easy it is.
Oh, yeah, it is. Right.
Hey, get on stage. All right.
Yeah.
Most people would absolutely lose their mind if asked to do that.
I know. No, I love that. I would actually, I kind of, even if I didn't have my stuff, I kind of enjoy, I kind of enjoy the speaking aspect, especially when it's impromptu. And I kind of like the fact of we need somebody to speak on this topic. And even if I don't know the topic, I can kind of get up and give us. Isn't that weird?
You've got a BS factor that's pretty strong, huh?
Well, no, it's there's a rhythm to it. I get into it's funny because my mind likes to make, it's kind of, what so who spoiled me on this is Gary Schwartz. And Gary Schwartz has a program out there. You can get him on Kickstarter. You can go look at him for the Spolin games. But Viola Spolin was she's the grandmother of improv. And she taught everybody improv, and these were these improv games. But Gary was really upset because everybody's using improv wrong compared to what it was. But because her thing is that she's trying to get you to the point where you're using your intuition. And so she has what's called the Spolin games, and these games, there's like 200 games, and she does things like I think I've told you about some of these before because one of them is the. For instance, everybody around a circle, they start telling a story, and they can only tell one sentence of a story, and they have to start and then to go next. So I say, I left my house this morning at 8 a.m.
and I took the bus into work, and it was a bummer.
And on the way, the bus broke down.
So I called an Uber, which is what I should have done in the first place.
And the gal that was driving the Uber was way hot.
I get it.
Now we can't go any further. But that's the cool thing is what it's trying to do is tap into your intuition, and it tricks you. The Spolin games, that's what improv is all about. It's the Spolin games tap you into your intuition. So there's something about being thrown into that thing where I have a structure, right? I have a structure for how I want to give a presentation. If I get the topic. And the first thing I'm going to explore is I'm going to go down. I'm going to get into the problem side and explore the problem a little bit, and I can improv it and let it fly. And what's funny is I can get probably pretty close to accurate on almost anything, right? To say, or if you told me to build a business on the fly, here's a business. Can you build a business out of something? The same kind of a deal because the improv, I have a structure in my mind, and I can. If you ask me to go do it and come back in 3 days with a presentation. I might not even come back with a presentation, right? But if I do it on the fly, I could probably do something that just rock. Because it'd be fun in the moment in improv, letting it fly kind of a thing. Which is what I try to do in the morning. By the way, one of the things I do that I discovered about myself on my journey for my uniqueness. And I encourage everybody to do something like this and just to keep finding out about themselves was one of the things that was an eye opener was I started going up to my whiteboard in the mornings, early mornings, like 3 a.m. and starting to understand certain topics and things at a deeper level, which I've always kind of wanted to do. So I would take them and I would begin to just kind of traverse by writing things down on the whiteboard as I spoke them out loud. So I kind of give an impromptu presentation to nobody and write things down on the board. I called it my whiteboard sessions, right? And then I finished it. They get really complex, it turned out. And I kept realizing they would just go to these really amazing places. It turns out I'm a deconstructionist. I had no idea. But I'm a deconstructionist. I like to take things and deconstruct them down to the most basic level to understand them and then build them up differently. I've been confused. People have told me sometimes that I'm a visionary, right? You have heard me say this before and I'm like, I love that. They're being so nice to me. And I kind of wish I was, but I'm really not. I'm not a visionary. I could deconstruct it down and I can get a different vision for what it can become. I think that's maybe part of the reason why I like to go down into people. Maybe that's why I'm an inside out kind of a thing, right? Is I like the inside because I deconstruct it down to understand them, which again, uniqueness gets all the way down to why you've actually been put on this earth. And then we can build up something different, right?
That's why it's a ReStartup, not just a startup.
Exactly right. It's a ReStartup. Exactly. I love it. And the whole podcast here is restart, right? And that's kind of what you're doing in a lot of ways. I feel like when people come to you, they're restarting. What we're doing in the market isn't getting us the kind of results that we need.
Yep.
Right? The customers aren't typically probably in the name of something like we're not making enough money. Customers aren't coming in. Those are the superficial reasons, but there's something more to it than that, I believe. But obviously, well, of course.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, like Frank says,
Yeah.
Frank Kern, one of my major clients is Frank Kern.
Yeah.
And like he always says that the businesses of our size, the small businesses, generally have one of two needs. They either want more money or they want less stuff that sucks.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy equation. So I think just about all my clients have both those things going on. They're like, this stuff sucks, and by the way, more money would help. And that's what inside out approach, ReStartup kind of stuff really helps people.
Well, absolutely, because to your point, because if you're just going after money for money's sake, which is kind of the old world, I know I can hear how that can be misinterpreted, right? In terms of people going, it's the money, yes, because I gotta survive, but there's something, but I'm really trying to make an impact here, do something, right? I think people want to make. I think that's a big thing for them. Is they want to make a difference, and the way they judge themselves on making a difference is what's going on in their business. Is it growing? Are customers are they able to pay their bills, or are they having to shrink? Are they having to let people go? And are they having fits and starts where it's really wavy? Right, one month is good, next one's bad, and it's up and down and up and down. How do they begin to think about leveling it off? And those are symptoms. Those are all symptoms, right? And the bank account is probably and both those actually, that's what he's talking about. There are symptoms, right? Obviously, the lack of money and more things that don't suck.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is that's how your typical entrepreneur like gauges their success level, is by the bank account.
Yeah,
and it's like that's not how it's supposed to be. So you have to restart those people.
You do. Oh, that's exactly right. And boy, it's such a better journey. And it's always better to have somebody. We always want to think to ourselves, how do I go into this and avoid all those problems in the first place, right? It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. If you're failing in your business, you've had fits and starts. You've gotten bigger, better, or worse, right? If you're failing in your business, right, then you are at the perfect place to go and do something really significant. Right. The worst part is people who are really successful they get off the bait and they get really. Think of child actors that end up going, and bombing out over time. Right. And in fact, I don't want to mention any names, but just they go to the ultimate death eventually. Right. Because they're not getting the fulfillment that they had because they got too much too early. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't hard for them. So they never had to figure out the reason why they didn't have to go. You're given. Those are all gifts to me in Life 3.0, right? There you go. Life 3.0. And those are all gifts to you to be able to tell you something's not right, but we don't know how to deal with that because we're so stuck on I got a goal, I got to meet the goal, so I don't have time. I don't have time to go off and figure anything out, and I can't restart. I've got clients that depend on me. I've got employees that depend on me. I've got to keep making this thing go. And if I'm not here and I can't spend the time on doing this, it ain't going to happen, right? I think the big first aha people get in business when they first start realizing they're looking for a restart is E-Myth.
Oh, yeah.
What a great one. It's a great one. But, man, let me tell you, that ain't so easy. They think they like the concept. Oh, work in versus on. I need to be working on my business, not in my business, right? Mm-hmm. And Rob Slee did an interesting thing. If everybody gets it, he did a thing called "Time Really Is Money." Really interesting to take that kind of to the nth degree to show the working in. You're working at $100 an hour, and you're working on your 500, 1,000, 2,500, up to several millions of dollars per hour. right? So he does it financially to kind of say, hey, stupid, you're doing the wrong thing. So I think it's a really good thing, but I think it's very difficult to be able to understand and to play in that world of when you've got 50 million things going on and you're trying to juggle between strategy and operation. I see this over and over and over and over again. It's a repeating over and over, and we'll probably talk about this a lot more going in.
And that's systems rather than just task lists. I mean, if you tweak a system, if you build a system, if you automate a system, that's going to multiply your efforts, and like you say, tens of thousands, millions of dollars per hour instead of what you were doing before.
And it creates that's system versus systemization. There's value versus valuation. There's creativity versus innovation. That's an interesting one. That's a very interesting one.
Well, let's not go there today.
Okay, we're not going there. Okay,
right. I'll tell you what. Something you said triggered me, and that's that.
Yeah.
It was an amazing gift to have something taken away from me.
I love that. Go, love it. Yeah.
And that was when it was my first 7-figure business.
Yeah.
That I got to a certain point, and people listening might have some kind of affinity towards what I'm about to say, and that's that you carry around with you as an entrepreneur or just a business person. You carry around with you a list of things that you would buy if you had the money. If someday right, when I have the money, I'm going to, I'm going to go stay at a Disney World intermediate resort.
Number one today is Tesla. Okay, sorry. Go,
oh, that's me. That's me right now.
Yeah.
But you carry as a capitalist, you carry around with you this list of things that you would do someday if you have the money.
Yeah.
And the most soul-wrenching thing that happened to me at that point in time was I emptied the list. I got the money, and I spent the money on the things on the list, and then the list was empty. And it was just like this emptiness inside of me said, wait a second. I've always been told that list is where it's at. I got everything on the list, and I feel totally empty inside.
Of course.
It did not fulfill me at all, And so that forces you to completely
rethink,
your purpose and your uniqueness in the world. When you get your list, you get everything you asked for. Hey, okay, the universe says, here you go. Here's everything you asked for. And you're like, is this all there is?
It's
a huge gift to have that taken away from you.
Huge gift to have that, right? Exactly. The emptiness that it actually represents. And yet it's what kept you going for years, right?
Yeah.
But when you get that, I mean, that's what I think that's the hardest part, is that you might go through some dark days, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a valley that you can go through on there, but coming up out of it, it's not the same game anymore.
Mm-mm.
You recognize little things like, this is where people say, I know the woo-woo stuff tries to get you to understand to live in the moment, right? The woo-woo, they spend too much, they don't spend enough time in the concrete world. I think there's some interesting things in the woo-woo, but they only go in that, so it's all the kumbaya, live in the moment, all this stuff, right? Meanwhile, they miss out on all these amazing parts of life. They really do, right? They're and vice versa. The other thing happens where you're just chasing the money and you end up with nothing. Right? Mm-hmm. Or you end up killing, or you end up miserable. One of the two.
Or you end up with the money, and that's not what you wanted.
Exactly, and it never is. But it always seems like it, especially when you're lost. I call it the lost life cycle. That's what we talk about, right? When you're lost in life. You don't know what to do, so you find things that will give your life meaning. Right, that's what you end up doing, and when those things are empty in and of themselves, like possessions and things like that, it goes. Not that possessions don't have their place. They do. There's value in them, but not necessarily for your reason that you exist on this planet. And that's the thing that drives you ultimately. And without being able to find that, you end up skirting that issue. That's why I don't like antidepressants. I think that there probably are some chemical imbalances that make them a very important drug for people with really severe or certain conditions, certain mental conditions. But when they're giving away like candy to people who are just, all they're doing is they got something inside them that's saying the direction you're going is absolutely wrong. It's wrong, right? And it's saying it to them, and they're not hearing it. Because I've got wife, I've got kids, I got bills to pay, I got things to do, I got goals I got to hit. I mean, I'm not doing that well like I used to, and this is very painful for me, right? And the more they go through it, the more painful it gets because they're supposed to be listening to themselves and they're not. And so they take the antidepressants that say, oh, you can stop listening to yourself anymore. So then now they're walking around like a zombie, bouncing into walls and surviving, and because like, how are you doing? I'm fine. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. That's the slow way of finding out what I just talked about.
Yes, exactly.
They realize there's a part of them on the inside that realizes there is only pain.
Yeah, right.
See? And that is because when you get the thing, when you get the money, it doesn't give you any fulfillment. But not having the thing, not accomplishing the thing, not attaining the stuff that the world says you need to attain, that gives you pain. So what is that? The up and down on that is there is only pain.
Right.
There's no fulfillment if you succeed.
Right.
There is lots of pain if you don't.
Right.
That's when they say I need an antidepressant because life sucks.
Because it sucks, exactly. We'll go further that next time. This has been great. I loved it. This is good. I think we're at 50 minutes. We should probably kill it, don't you think? Yeah.
I suppose so.
I thought that was awesome.
We talk too much all the time anyway.
I know we do. That's a good restart. And we're going to cover topics, and we're going to do this. And hopefully, if you're tuning in, you've tuned into us right now. It'd be great to give us some feedback. What do you think about these sessions? Was that interesting and informative? Was it just absolutely completely ridiculous? And why are these guys babbling up about these things no one cares about? Or is this kind of like my dinner with Andre, which you may not have liked that. I liked that show, but kind of a thing. I found that intriguing. I was I was sucked into that. I just enjoyed the conversation. But these are the real conversations and all this kind of good stuff. So this is so cool that we're doing this. And high five, we got one done. Boom, boom.
Yeah, right? And we'll do more. We'll do more practical stuff as well.
Yeah, so, absolutely. 100%.
Like absolutely. Yeah. Some strategies and tactics as well, because I love those. I love trying out new things and having something come out of it that you never expected. So I'll make sure to share those.
Awesome. Until next time, have a good restart.
All right.
Until we restart next time.
Yeah, the ReStartup.
Exactly. Bye.